BraveMaker Show is hosted by Tony Gapperstone. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to episode 209 of the BraveMaker podcast. My name is Tony Gapperstone and I'm a writer, I'm a director, I'm an actor in the Bay Area. San Francisco Bay Area is where I live. You can find me on the socials at my name, which is Tony Gapperstone, at everywhere, at X/Twitter, whatever we're calling it, and Facebook and Instagram and all the places. Or my website is tonygap.com. Now, I have been doing this show for 209 episodes because I love learning. I love talking to filmmakers. I myself am making films and working on television and trying to get into the industry even more than I already am. And I think one of the best ways to do that and make connections is to hear other people's journeys. So if you're tuning in with us live or on the replay, this is what you can expect. I would encourage you, if you like what you're hearing, follow us on all the socials. Make sure you share this with your friends. Follow us on our YouTube page at BraveMaker.org. And you can go to our website at BraveMaker.org to learn more about who we are. We would love to connect with you. There's a lot of things happening, from our BraveMaker Academy to our film festival that happens in July every year in Redwood City. And we wouldn't want you to miss out on the really cool opportunities that we have going on. So follow BraveMaker anywhere you can follow us on socials at BraveMaker.org. All right, so with that, I'm going to bring in my 209th guest. He is a filmmaker who's currently in the Bay Area but lives in Los Angeles, who had a short film in the same festival that I just had The Crossing Guard, CineQuest 2023. So welcome to the show, KEVIN UNG. What's up, Kevin? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
Heck yeah. I think we were in the same room. We didn't get a chance to meet face to face in person, but I saw you swirling around the socials at CineQuest. I was like, oh, I got to meet this guy and bring this guy on the show. And so thanks for being here. We like to do a physical description. So I'm Tony Gapperstone. I'm a Caucasian man. I'm wearing a black hat with yellow glasses in my BraveMaker studio with the words BraveMaker in pink behind me and green faux. Kevin, what's your physical description and pronouns if you'd like to share?
My name is Kevin, and I am sitting in an office that is blurred out behind me with this blur feature. Wearing a black t-shirt, AirPods, and that's about it, I think.
Well, let's dig in. I always like to start with the first question, being a storyteller and maker of things. What's your origin story? How did you get into this business of film?
So I mean, I know a lot of filmmakers, like, I think they say they've always wanted to do this since they were kids. And I enjoyed films, but I never knew it was like a thing, a possibility. So I had actually went to UCLA for undergrad, and I was studying biochem actually, on trying to become a doctor. And I remember I saw film school and I enjoyed doing it. I took a film class and I really enjoyed it. And then I decided, hey, why don't I try to apply? So at UCLA, you have to apply during your sophomore year, and you get in as a junior. And so I applied, and I got pretty far. I thought I got in. I got rejected in like probably the worst way possible. They send you back a letter, and it's a carbon copy of your application, and it just has rejected on it. And so I remember this.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's great, but it's just, and I remember this to this day. It was like it's seared in my brain. Anyways, I got fairly jaded after that. I
That's
after that I had
horrible.
interned at Fox Searchlight, and I remember I kind of looked around, and this is way back, like years ago. But I remember not seeing honestly anyone that really looked like me.
Mm.
So then I just kind of felt like, oh, this may not be the right place for me. So I decided to leave LA, and I studied abroad. I went to go study abroad in Hong Kong, and then what was supposed to be a semester turned into nearly a decade.
No.
I amazingly got the opportunity to make a film within months of landing in Hong Kong. I didn't have family there. I didn't speak the language. I just happened to see a poster at the school I was studying abroad in, and it was run by Johnny To, this godfather of like Hong Kong cinema. And that somehow I got this money and got this opportunity, and I made my first film, Chubby Can Kill, and that one did fairly well, and that kind of like launched me into what I want to do. There were some years in between where I wasn't able to make a living doing films, so I had to do advertising and marketing. But eventually, I decided to apply to USC Film School, and thinking, I'm not gonna get in. I'll just do this, and at least I'll tell people I applied, didn't get in, but I got in, and then I ended up dropping my whole life in Hong Kong, and then coming back across the ocean and making a couple more films, and here I am today.
So cool.
Yeah.
First of all, I cannot get that rejected stamp thing out of my head. It's so visual and visceral and like something you see in a movie. It's like, come on.
It's painful.
It's painful enough to get those film festival, replies from Film Freeway. Like, we regret to inform you that your submission was one of so many, and it was so hard. Like, that's hard enough, but at least they try to like polish it up a little bit. But the stamp, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Well, what a cool journey, which I'm sure makes you, have a very significant, voice as a filmmaker. And I got to watch your film Work Life, which I was telling you, before we got on, I really loved. And I can share some great news. If you listen to the end of the podcast and the show today, some great news about this short film that's going to connect with BraveMaker. So you're going to want to stand by to hear about what that good news is. So don't go away. So Kevin, let's talk about Work Life and this film and the making of it. And it's life. It's a really, really fun short. So where did the idea come from?
So I had worked for, like I told you, I worked for years in like marketing and advertising. And actually I didn't write the script. So this is the first short I directed that I didn't write myself. So the script is written by this a brilliant writer named Matthew Stewart. And he also worked in corporate life. And so when I read the script, I was like, this works. I understand this world. I understand this life. And I wanted to portray this this world in a way that made sense to people who lived it, but also was just approachable and fun. And I wanted to throw curveballs at you to lull you into a false sense of security or just confuse you in terms of what I was trying to do in the beginning. So hopefully it worked out.
Oh my gosh, I got to watch it from home. I did not see it at CineQuest, but I love short films so much. I will always be a short film maker, even though I want to be doing features in TV. I just think there's something really fun about a little contained story, and some getting in quick and leaving early, or getting in late, sometimes leaving early. But I feel like you had a lot of stuff happening in this little short 13-minute film. So first of all, just kind of pitch what the whole idea is, and then I want to talk about some of like the nitty gritty of how you made it. Let's hear about how you describe what Work Life is.
So I guess without getting into ruining the surprises, I guess, in the film, the film is an ensemble piece about these four coworkers who live their life, and we kind of see flashbacks to their weekend, and the more and more we see from each flashback, the more and more we learn that their weekends are more than just normal weekends. They're all intertwined, and you find out much more about that in the middle. So, without saying too much, that's that. It's a film that talks about I think sort of the banalities of work life, like working, but also like how real, I guess, life outside of work can be, I guess. And I think that was sort of my inspiration. How do I portray like The Office in such a way that's just soul sucking? And if you look at The Office, actually, I try to eliminate all shadows, which took us a long time
the lighting was really
out.
great. Yeah, like a commercial almost.
Yeah, like I think my producer's like, "What are you doing? Like it just doesn't look like it has any life." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is the point. Like I want to suck as much life out of this as possible." And it's in contrast, of course, to the flashbacks, which are completely lit, completely different lenses, everything. And I think if you see a couple of my other shorts, there's always this, I think, this feeling of this kind of being lost, I guess, in life, and all these characters, in one way or another, even though this is a fairly fun dark comedy, they do have that melancholy sort of feeling to them. Even Sam, even the guy who's partying, he's you can tell there's something about him at work where he just doesn't really want to be there.
Gosh, so when you're watching it and you see the first few minutes, you're not kind of sure where it's going to go, and like I said, the lighting is very commercial like. I was like, okay, this is interesting. You can tell that was a stylistic choice, and then we go to the first flashback and I'm like, ooh, okay. And you're trying to put some pieces together, and I knew, I'm like, something's off about that first little flashback, and what is it? And I really think, I mean, obviously it's a combination of the writing and the directing, but I was just really impressed. It felt like a very high quality short film, which, sometimes short films aren't always, and there's no offense to anybody. Sometimes we're all learning and going about our business and just trying to make something. This felt like the intention and the budget, which I would love to hear, whatever you want to share, was there, and the people, I'm sure the cast and the crew and I'm not just kind of blowing smoke. It was really good and interesting, well shot. I mean, if you're watching this on the replay on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see some of the things on the screen. If you're listening to this on our audio podcast, you might have to go to our YouTube channel and just check out some of the clips that we're showing. We're not playing it. You're not going to see the whole thing, but you're seeing little snippets. So you've got these characters who all work together, and I love it because someone says, well, how was your weekend? How was your weekend? And they all kind of do what we normally say. It was all right. It was fine. It was uneventful, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
So talk about how, you say the contrast between what happened in the flashbacks, and there's some dark things. It's dark. There's one point I was like, I did not expect that at all. And I loved it. So talk about some of the intricacies of those connections and interweavings.
So I mean, I think it's interesting getting a script and directing it versus writing a script and then directing yourself, because I think when you're writing, you kind of have it all in mind, but when you get a script, you kind of have to read it and interpret it and then figure out yourself what would you do. So I again, like I said, like I just, for example, at the beginning, in the office, like the way they dress, the color tones, everything, it's a fairly great office. There's nothing that really sticks out because I've wanted it to like feel as dead as possible. Even if you look at the back, there's those posters and there's like a snail that says like optimism. There's all these things that just make you feel like that. And those are shot on Zeiss CP2s, which I actually don't really like the look of, but for this in particular it worked because they're really, really sharp. And this film was actually done as a thesis film at USC, basically. So they essentially a thesis. They select 3 people every semester to make a film, and this is one of the films. But anyways, so
what year, by the way, was this?
This was shot in 2022, and so
okay, so the most recent. That's great.
It's fairly recent. And then so basically, if you could contrast that with all the other scenes, the contrast is different. The lighting is different. The everything is really, the wardrobe is different, and even the lenses. So the lenses we used God, I forgot the name right now. But the lenses we used were vintage lenses that were just very soft. So it's not something you'd want to use on like a commercial for a car, but like for this, it works really well. And I think as a filmmaker, you need to understand why are you using these tools, because those are your
Mhm.
like as a director, I think you should know this as well. Why are you using this tool to paint whatever you're trying to paint?
Mhm.
And each character really has, if you really think about it, they sort of envelop their own genre almost. Like uh, you know,
Mhm.
there's people like this guy you see right here. He is more Charlie Kaufman-esque, whereas another might be more um, horror, another might be more rom-com, another's more like just straight up comedy. So you're playing with like really almost 4 or 5 different genres and trying to blend it in into 12 or so, 11 something, 12 minutes or so. And you have to make sure it's cohesive, makes sense, but still has that variety. And I think um, it was just a pleasure doing that. But also beyond that, it's also getting the right actors and making sure um, they've worked well together. Because I think having an ensemble cast is hard because you don't have one main person really pushing through. You need all 4 of them to really interact well with each other. So we went through like over 1,000 actors, and it was just time consuming. But
Over
you
a
needed
thousand actors?
over 1,000 actors, and no, this is like going through each reel. But you just like you had to find
Wow.
the right people, and then once you find your once you narrow it down, you got to test them with each other, and then see if they work, if they mesh. Because we had some great actors who just didn't really fit with each other. So it comes down to, I think when when you have a film like this where you need every single character to really shine in their own way, you need to make sure they just mesh well, and they're brilliant to work with. Like they're all so different, but so amazing to work with, and friendly, kind, but also took directions super well, and just amazing people.
If you're watching on the replay, one of the characters sees something in the garbage. You're gonna want to check it out. We're not gonna tell you what it is, but when that
And
happens,
actually,
go ahead.
I'm
What?
sorry, go ahead. No, one
No,
thing
I was
too,
just
like I want to mention, which is I forgot to mention earlier, was like so my parents actually they were refugees from Cambodia. So when I was a kid, when we watched films, like we didn't watch like art films. We didn't watch films that were like art films, films that were more like, for lack of a better word, like complicated. We watched like Bloodsport and like Terminator and like action and comedy, because that's what was accessible. You didn't need to understand the language. And so if you watch all of my shorts, actually, and all my films, you can watch them without understanding. I mean, without
mm,
understanding the language, but still
mm,
understand what's going on. And that's sort of been my thing, because I want to make sure that the films are accessible. But at the same time, if you look at the technique behind it, there's still stuff you can get if you're like a film nerd or something. That there's still stuff you get that I'm doing that is subconscious, or it doesn't come out through just spoken dialogue. And I think that to me that's really important, that a lot of things that happen come through action. And if you watch my films, um, they're fairly situation action based, versus things that are more dialogue. Yeah.
what I hear you saying is, I think, inspiration for filmmakers. When you're writing and directing your pieces, is there things that you can do? This is the typical show don't tell, but is there things that you can do that can make it so that if your volume was off, or if someone didn't speak the language that was being spoken in the film, could they understand what was happening? And
Right.
I teach acting too, and I think that's one of the most fun things to do in acting exercises, is teach actors how to get what they want in a scene without having to say it. Like, how do you seduce someone or put someone
Right.
down, or how do you build someone up or worship someone without saying those exact words? It's
Mm.
really a cool part of the craft, and it sounds like you've had a lot of fun and you really geek out on those things, which is great. Like, that's the art, right? The art
Yeah. I
of
mean,
filmmaking.
I think like directors and writers, like they're all so different. Like Aaron Sorkin's a master of dialogue. Like, but
Right.
and I think it comes down to knowing what you do and why you want to do it. I am not going to do what Aaron Sorkin's doing, because my skills, my what I do just doesn't really align with that. But I do appreciate what he does. I think it's brilliant. Whereas for me, I think how I grew up, my background, everything, it influences what I do. Maybe not in like you can't see it necessarily, but definitely the inspiration and how I direct things um, come come through, I guess, much more physically, like and much less through dialogue, I would say.
Yeah, you could tell you had
Um,
really methodically planned this out. Obviously, you didn't just haphazardly throw yourself in there. So talk to us about kind of the pre-production process. How much time did you have? Anything you want to say about, how the meetings went with the screenwriter and your DP and all that kind of stuff? Let's geek out on that, and then we'll talk about production and post and all that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
By the way,
it was
1,000 actors. I'm still thinking about. You auditioned a ton of actors, so get some specifics around that too.
I know we didn't audition 1,000. We went through.
You saw self tapes, right?
We saw self tapes, but we went through.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
It was over 1,000. It was. I mean, you want to make sure you get good, like
sure.
I won't say good, the right people to do the film. And that's what we found. And yes, I mean, in terms of pre-pro, we really, so how it works at USC, I got the script, and then we had essentially, I would say, about a month or so to prep for the film. And this is, we confirm the script and we lock the script, and we have a month to really prep until the first day of shooting. So in that month, you had to just prepare everything. And this film actually has a ton of locations. Like it is a little bit over ambitious for what it was, but I mean, I was like, let's do it. Like, why not? Let's just go crazy, and then just throw out the rule book of just keeping it simple, and let's just do something as complicated as we can. Let's put a car in there. Let's figure out how to do that. And so pre-pro, we really at first we had to figure out the logistics of where we're shooting, what we're shooting. And just finding the right locations. Like finding an office was so hard because getting an office space that fit within our budget and everything was really difficult. Luckily, our production designer, she knew someone who actually had a space like that, and we were able to use it.
Wow.
But beyond that, just finding all these locations was one of the harder parts, in making sure it worked. And we, a lot of it was just going to talk to people and sweet talking to them, and just making sure that we can get it. And I think. I think a lot of times when you're younger, especially if you're a student even, it really does help to go to people and be like, hey, I know normally this costs money, but I really, really need to shoot this. And it would be, it'd be great if you could help us out. And, you'd be surprised about how many people will say, yeah, like even in a city like LA where, everyone's charging for everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're open, but, so really just getting that down, locking the actors, getting all the heads of departments, like getting wardrobe, makeup, all this stuff ready, and working with a DP to get the look down. We're debating this office scene. Should we shoot it, I guess, your traditional nice way, or should we just do something different, completely different, where people may not feel good about it, but we stuck to our guns, and we did that, and then we had to figure out the rest. What lenses are we going to use for the rest of the scenes? How are we going to light them? And after that, it's really getting everything together. And a lot of, really just, I think you have to be resourceful, especially when you're shooting a short film. And if you are starting out, especially, we had great help from Nanlux. They were gracious enough to help give us like a lighting kit. It was just, it's a lot of great hard work asking for support, and it worked out in the end, and it was a great experience. But it's really just a lot of prep, because when you're shooting, you only have so many hours, and you want to make sure you devote those hours, hopefully not to too much problem solving, but more how do we make this work and how do we make it work better. And we were blessed we had great actors, so it was just how do we make that performance shine even more? How do we bring them up to the next level? So it was a whole process, and 4 weeks. It seems like a long time, but it feels it goes by fast. So
I might be a little ignorant to this, but when you do a thesis film, does USC provide you any resources financially, like to pay master?
So USC actually has thesis films, which they don't support, and then there's a thing I was doing when they only select 3 every semester, and those they support with around $7,000, and then the rest you sort of make up with your self crowdfunding, whatnot. So
did you crowdfund for this one?
We did.
Okay.
And so it was still tough to kind of, I think just the locations and just many places we were shooting, and then all that stuff. Setups took a long time, so it's just a lot of work getting all that ready to go. But at the end of the day, like it was worth it. It was really fun to make, and it was a good experience.
It's really, honestly, really, really impressive. And kind of going back to what you said, that each of the flashback stories was a movie in itself. So you have this kind of overarching umbrella movie called Work Life, and then each person recounting their weekend is living in a movie. So that was like, you could almost like pull up each movie in itself, and it could stand alone in some way. So that was just really fun. And I love seeing good movies that inspire me and make me want to, do stuff and be creative. So thank you for that. Thanks for putting something out into the world. And
yeah, of course. I mean, with these characters, like I wrote, I mean, even though you don't really see too much of some characters, like I wrote gigantic bios for them. So there's backstories to all of them. And they when you work with actors, you tell them, you work with them and you ask them questions, you develop these characters, even though you will never see a lot of stuff we need to talk about on screen, because we work so hard on these characters. When it comes down to the day, it makes it so much easier on them to be those characters. And I think that's important, to not just tell them what to do, but to work with them to find the truth of who that character they're playing is. And I think that's really important to take it seriously, even though this is a comedy, just to take it seriously. Okay, this is a comedy, but why are you like this? Like this, the guy who partied, like they're all was sort of like melancholy in their own way. And the guy who partied, like why do you have so much fun outside, and why at work? Why do you seem like this? And the questions like this, and they'll answer, and they'll have a good answer for you, because there's no wrong answer really. And it helps you, and it helps them develop these characters, and so to me, it was great, because I think there's layers to this film. If you really want to like look into this film, it's a short film, so no one's going to really do that. But there are layers to this film, just on the little nuances on how they act and things like that. So it's really fun.
So let's talk about production with all of these locations and these intertwining actors and getting their schedules lined up. I'm going to make an assumption. Did you film all of the office scenes in one day?
That was one day.
Yeah. Okay, good. I was thinking, you probably could squeeze it all 10, 12 hours. Okay. And then what about the other ones? I feel like the other ones were going to be a little bit more. Maybe.
There's so many locations. Like, one was I tried to shoot in my apartment because we couldn't find a suitable apartment. When we shot in my apartment, when we shot at this bar at USC, actually, it's one of the bar scenes at USC. When we tried to fake this road, we found a place at USC that kind of looked like this neighborhoodish road. Did it there. A bunch of other houses that we found. This was another house. So it was like a couple of houses. There was a liquor store that we had to shoot in. And so it was really like a lot. Like I feel like our AD was able to, really schedule this all together, because it was move after move after move, and it was tough sometimes because we had to go quick, and you have to be confident in what you're doing, because you have to go. If you're not, you'll waste time at one location and you'll eat into your other locations, and then you'll make a film, but you may not make the film that you want, I think. Yeah, and it's weird because like we're talking about logistics, and whereas film is very much it's an artistic medium, but you do have to keep in mind that there's like just these random logistical things, like that you cannot change. Like you only have a certain amount of hours in a day, and you have to figure out in your head, I can do this, 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 and this. Can I drop this, and will it affect the film? So I think you have to think very fast and on your feet, and particularly with so many locations, there were no redos or anything. So yeah.
So how many days of actual production?
Let's see. It was 6 days and one pickup day.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was actually 2 days, and then we had like a week to kind of look at dailies, and then 2 more days a week, and then 2 more days. So it worked out fairly well. So we shot on the weekends basically.
That's great.
Worked out really, and we had great support from people. Like there's an arm in the film. But we got that generously donated from someone who works in props, and it looked amazing. And with the makeup artist just doing stuff to the arm. It looks real for what it is.
That looks
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I need an arm for a short film. No joke. I'm doing it in a month, so I might need to talk to you on
Hey.
who that was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
so honestly, really fun. And here's the good news that you all have been waiting for. We're gonna Kevin's gonna let us show this at our Halloween party in
Ooh.
Redwood City for the screening room. So October 28th in Redwood City, our annual Halloween party and costume contest. Come and see Work Life with a lot of other cool short films in the horror thriller genre. It's not all horror or thriller. It'll be some dark comedies like this one and some other fun stuff too. But yeah, come out. That's at the Courtyard Marriott in Redwood City. So get your tickets at bravemaker.com/Halloween. Or in the bio in our Instagram page. Okay, so let me hear you. You've been making short films for quite some time. You're working on a feature. You said earlier before we started, I asked you, what are some of your go-to practical tips, like as a director, things that are your best practices, whether it's working with actors or just your DP relationship? Like for me, I heard Ava DuVernay said she changes her socks and shoes midway. I always I bring an extra change of clothes. Like, I like to be fresh after lunch, and I come out, I'm like, boom. And if you look at pictures, it looks like we shot for double the amount of days. I have so many different shirts out. But that's something that I do for myself. I like deodorant, like to brush my teeth, like to come back from lunch fully fresh. I also like having one-on-ones with my actors and kind of asking what's best for them. How do they like to work? I don't always like to overtalk to actors. I like to see what they can bring. Take 1, 2, and 3 kind of thing. What are the things that you have found work for you in your style?
I guess a couple of things. I mean, on set, just be comfortable with, like, just practicality. Just be comfortable. Beyond that, I would say get good rest. But honestly, for me, I get butterflies, and honestly, I can't get sleep before the night before. So, but get rest. But beyond that, like you said, I think when you work with actors, know that every actor is different. They're trained differently. You know, like whereas like an actor from the UK that follows that sort of acting will be very different from an actor in LA who has a different style, or an actor in New York, or whoever. Everyone has a different way of being directed and acting, really. And so I think it comes upon the director to really understand that, because I think I've seen some people who just try to force feed their way of directing, whereas I think it should be the opposite. I think as a director, you need to understand enough about acting to where you are the one who's able to accommodate these actors in a way, like, because at the end of the day, all of you are trying to create something great, and so you need to accommodate the different styles each actor has. And I think understanding that and understanding different kinds of acting, particularly if you have time to rehearse, I think that's great. I love rehearsals, so rehearse with them and figure that out beforehand, because don't figure that out on set. And really, once you understand the way they act, I think you can adjust yourself to fit that. Like if someone really just wants to be told what to do, then do it. I think it's fair. You know, people say don't do that, but if an actor really just likes that, then that's how you roll. Because on set, you don't have the time to screw around. Like for example, like my first film, I shot in Cantonese. I didn't speak the language. I didn't speak Cantonese, so I had to do all the rehearsals prior and make sure everything was ready, and then we shot. So and that was complete. I've never done it like that since. But I think when you have different situations, you need to be aware of how to prep for those situations and just be ready to go. And so when curveballs do come at you, you know how to deal with them. You know how to approach that. But at the end of the day, I think just reading the script and knowing that, well, and everyone says this, but really do know the script so that you can just change things on the whim, where you don't need to look at the script at all. You can just go and talk to the actors and know exactly what's going on. Because then I think that you need that sort of confidence when you walk on set, because it will bleed into the rest of the set. And if you're not confident as a director, it's gonna be tough, because people will not. They'll do what you're doing, but they're looking for you to understand what you're doing, because oftentimes they might be like, "What the hell is he doing? What the hell is she doing? What are they doing?" And I think as long as you know what you're doing, and you can show that well, people will be like, "Okay, I'll trust them, and I'll go along with this." my previous film I did was the main character was essentially a man in a refrigerator, and so like that was interesting. And people didn't understand what I was doing, how I was getting things, but at the end of the day, it worked out. And I think just doing that all in advance, prepping as much as you can, that saves you a lot of time. Um, and I think it's really just knowing that. I think being practical, especially if you're doing a short film, probably most likely, I don't know, can't speak to everyone, but your resources are limited. So know that and be ready, because you gotta move, you gotta go. But I think just all that prep work, and sometimes you're like, this is like an absurd amount of prep work for something that's 12 minutes. It comes back to it's fine, because I think when you're on set, when things arise again, you're ready to deal with whatever comes, and I think that's very important. So yeah, it's really just doing that and believing in what you're doing.
It's cool.
Sorry, these are generalities, but and also I think one thing too. This sounds very random, but just keep practicing what you're doing. And it sounds, of course, you should do it, right? But like, really, the more you direct, the easier it gets. I think so I co-directed that feature, and you have like 40, 50 people running around you, and so you're like, oh my! I think if you didn't have experience prior, and you would just get overwhelmed. And I remember my first film, I did get overwhelmed, because I was like, oh my God, I'm working with like these like great gaffers in Hong Kong. Like, these gaffers have been worked, these like cinematographers, gaffers, whatever, they've worked for years and years and years, decades, on some of like the films I love. And now they're asking me what to do. And if you're first doing that, it gets overwhelming. But I'm lucky enough to have done these smaller films in the past, and then just be comfortable with it. And I think really you can make the worst film, but the more you do it, the more you'll get comfortable with, oh yeah, if I do this, it'll work. Or you get comfortable just giving direction and being okay with it, which sounds easy, but it's actually harder than it is, I think, when push comes to shove. But again, I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. I think that's like with anything. Practice, it comes it's second nature. So yeah.
It's interesting, for directors, well, even filmmakers, actors. Yeah, you're right. We need the practice, but the challenge sometimes of this craft is, if we're lucky, we're doing a short film a month, that every month, like that's rare, but maybe a quarter, and sometimes that could be rare. So to be able to figure out, okay, so while I'm waiting to really make my short film with the cast and the crew, what can I be doing now? Get my friend together to table read or workshop my idea and my script. That's a way to practice too. So I really think, you might be saying these are general things, but it really is a tough intention and objective to actually reach, but it's a goal we should have. That's why I started our BraveMaker Academy. I was like, if I only waited to write and direct when I had the money, I would only be doing it once or twice or 3 times a year. But now that we have this weekly thing, I'm able to do it on almost like basically a weekly basis, and it's so fulfilling. So if you're listening out there, you got to find a way to make it happen. You got to find a way to get out there and get in the work.
Yeah, I think one of the good things of being in LA actually is just you're around so many brilliant actors. Probably the only city for film that this really happens, where there's thousands of actors where if you really want to, I'm sure they would be happy too to get direction, and then you practice direction, they practice acting. And I think it's a wonderful way to practice, because that is really a lot of what you're doing, and you need to get comfortable doing that. And it's not easy, because on set you might be lost for words, but I think the more and more you do it, you'll figure things out, and also you'll figure your own style out. Each director directs very differently as well. And I think it like you said, like if you have the time, particularly if you have friends who are actors, even friends who aren't actors, but if you have friends who are actors particularly, because they've trained for it, you can work with them and you can see what you can do. Can I direct this comedy? Can I direct this drama? Can I direct this horror? How can I manipulate what they're doing? And let's play around with this. And I think for them it's fun, for you it's fun, and both of you it's challenging, and you'll both grow. And I think that's what people need to think about, because it's like the whole 10,000 hour thing. You need that practice. And the more you do it, the more you'll see different things, the more you understand different things. And a lot of directing is really just understanding people. It's unlike, say, like a cinematographer or a sound recordist. Um, our work isn't necessarily so technical. We may understand a lot of these things, but our work mainly is really just understanding people and understanding how things work, and making sure that you're running the set well, but understanding these actors and how do you best get them to interact with each other. Like, for example, like for one scene, my producers weren't too happy, but I asked everyone who wasn't essential on that one scene to just please leave the set, because I think there's a little bit of something was a little off with one of my actors, and I just wanted everyone to clear, because I wanted to give them space. And I think you need to know innately this is the problem, and then you're not going to announce, hey, she's uncomfortable or they're uncomfortable, everyone leave. Like, you need to figure out how to do that in a way that's comfortable for everyone, and then go along with that. And yes, I think actors love when they feel comfortable knowing that you're taking care of them. And I think that's one of the good things too. Like, it's not necessarily you're babying them the whole way, but like taking care of them in terms of you're going to try to get the best performance out of them. And so you might do crazy things, or you might play around, you might just kick people off set, stuff like that. So just being always aware, always cognizant, always on your feet, always ready. I think that's important. Even when you're doing a comedy, dark comedy, I think it's important to always keep in mind.
Good words from Kevin Ung. This is episode 209, and we are so stoked for the short film called Work Life. You can see it October 28th at the BraveMaker Halloween party, and you can follow Kevin and all of his work and see all the different future things he's got coming on. Kevin, where can people follow you on Instagram?
You could follow me at kevinung.film. That's UNG and then .film. That's my website as well, actually. So yeah, follow me there and see where the films go next. And I'll post about what I'm working on next as well. And the feature we worked on is coming out this month, I think.
Oh my gosh! Okay, that's
well,
amazing.
It's premiering. It's like to friends and family, but probably sometime this year it'll do its thing, and then hopefully work on my own personal one afterwards. So yeah,
that's cool. We look forward to staying in touch. We're not done. We end our show with our favorite things of the week, and that's called our Brave Faves.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
All right, so my Brave Fave of the week is a show on Hulu. It's called The Other Black Girl. I loved it. I binged it. It was really, really fun. Kind of Get Out-ish. So if you like little Jordan Peele Get Out vibe, if you like something that is a mystery, if you like shows or stories that elevate racial justice and really important, relevant issues going on in culture, you will like this show. It was fun. The acting was really great. And, it's got a little bit of camp and satire, which always makes me happy. It's on Hulu, and you'll recognize a ton of actors from a lot of TV shows that you know. So check it out. That's my Brave Fave for the week. Kevin, what you got?
So I actually just rewatched, this is an older film, but Taika Waititi's first feature. It's called Boy, and surprisingly a lot of people haven't seen it yet. So I do recommend, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. For me, it's one of my favorites, and it's I think Taika Waititi at his most raw, except for his first short film, but definitely something to check out.
Yeah, I am not familiar with that at all. So that's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. I definitely would like to see the beginnings of this creative guy that we have come to know in so many ways. So, Boy, okay, where did you watch it? I'm sure we can all just figure it out.
I think I had a DVD a long time ago. And
wow! Okay.
Yeah, this was like way back when, but it was just, you can tell it's him, and I think he does like this family estrangement and sadness very well, because he does it with comedy, and so you find it hilarious, but then at the same time, underneath everything, there's this like sense of oh, this is actually really sad. And I think Taika does that well. I mean, he's changed over the years, but with this, it's actually, yeah, it's a fun film where he's talking about a community we rarely see, and he does it in a way that's approachable to everyone. And I think it's fun. It's great.
That's great. Taika, responsible for Reservation Dogs, such shows as What We Do in the Shadows, also one of my all-time favorite shows currently. That was my Brave fave a few weeks ago. So cool, awesome. Nice. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Kevin. So great,
yeah, of course,
to have you on the show. Don't go away, everybody else. Thank you so much for watching. As a reminder, we are a nonprofit 501c3. We could not do this show and or any of the work that we do without you. So please consider becoming a donor. We only have 33 donors every month, and one of them is my mom. So if you could consider becoming a charitable giver, you can go to our website at bravemaker.org, or you can follow us on Instagram at bravemaker.org. And everything is, going right back into all the work that we're doing, whether it's our paying for our streaming platform that we do these shows for the past 209 episodes, or it helps us make our short films, or we just started a BraveMaker Academy acting class, our rent, our insurance, all of those things. I work 3 other jobs, just so you know. This is really a passion of ours, and we want to grow. We want to be able to hire staff eventually. We have a dream of being the Sundance of Redwood City or the Bay, because we love filmmakers. We love film. And we also want to give grants away to emerging filmmakers and keep doing what we do, which is creating and curating brave stories for justice, diversity, and inclusion to educate, entertain, and create community experiences. You believe in that? Join us. You can also use your phone and text the word BraveMaker to 44321. All right. Thanks so much again for Kevin Ung for being on the show. Hopefully we'll stay connected, man. I mean, I know you're here till Sunday, but if you come back up again, we should grab coffee, or next time I'm in LA, we should definitely link up, because I love your style, love your vibe. Maybe you want to come up for the Halloween party, Kevin. I mean, why not? Come show your short and get in a costume and dance the night away on October 28th. All right. Thanks again, Kevin. And thanks to my producer, Amy Cohen out of Austin, Texas, our intern, Jessica Cohen, our podcast editor, Barnell Amos from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and our social media manager, Carrie Alley. That's all we got. Kevin, thanks so much. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Brave Stories change the world, and you are the story. We'll see you soon, everybody.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at BraveMaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.